Let me get this straight, I said, gripping my phone tightly as I stood in my kitchen. You took Emma's college fund and gave it to your son's new baby? Well, technically it was a joint account, my mother-in-law, Barbara, replied with that familiar condescending tone. And let's be honest, Sophia, Emma isn't really family. She's adopted. Little James is my actual grandchild. He needs a proper start in life. My name is Sophia Mitchell, and at 35, I just discovered my mother-in-law had emptied my daughter's college savings account, money I'd been carefully setting aside since I adopted Emma 8 years ago. The account had been set up jointly with Barbara because, at the time, she'd insisted on contributing monthly to show her support. What a joke that turned out to be. That money was for Emma's education, I said, keeping my voice steady despite the rage building inside me. She's your granddaughter, adopted or not. Barbara's laugh was sharp, cutting. Oh, please. You've always been so dramatic, Sophia. Emma's what, 10 now? She probably won't even go to college. Besides, James is only 6 months old. He needs this investment more. Think of his future. I thought about Emma, upstairs in her room working on her science project. My brilliant, beautiful daughter who'd already decided she wanted to be a marine biologist, who'd been through enough abandonment in her short life without her grandmother stealing her future. How much did you take? I asked, though I already knew. I checked the account this morning after receiving a withdrawal notification. All of it, Barbara said proudly. $48,000. I've already transferred it to James's new trust fund. Sarah is so grateful. Finally, a proper grandchild to spoil. Sarah, my husband Mark's brother's new wife. They'd had James 6 months ago, and suddenly Barbara had found her real grandchild. The past 8 years of Emma's life apparently meant nothing. I see, I said calmly. And does Mark know about this? Oh, don't drag Mark into this, Barbara scoffed. He understands family priorities, even if you don't. Blood is thicker than water, Sophia. I looked at the family photos on our wall. Emma's adoption day, her first day of school, holidays, birthdays, 8 years of memories with Barbara right there in the pictures, smiling her fake smile. How long had she been planning this? Thank you for letting me know, I said, my voice ice cold. Goodbye, Barbara. I hung up before she could respond and immediately called my lawyer, Diana. We'd worked together on Emma's adoption, and she'd become a close friend. She did what? Diana's voice rose in disbelief as I explained the situation. Sophia, that's theft. Joint account or not, there's documentation that this was specifically Emma's college fund. We can fight this. Good, I said, pulling out my laptop, because I have something else to tell you. Remember that trust fund my parents left me? The one Barbara doesn't know about? Diana's tone shifted. I could hear her smile. The one worth 3 times what she stole. Oh, this is going to be good. I want to set up an ironclad college fund for Emma, I said, typing as we talked. One that Barbara can never touch. And then I want to make sure she understands exactly what she's done. I'll have the paperwork ready by tomorrow, Diana replied. But Sophia, what about Mark? He needs to know what his mother did. I glanced at the clock. Mark would be home from his business trip in an hour. He's about to find out, and he's going to have to choose his mother's bigotry or his daughter's future. After hanging up with Diana, I heard footsteps on the stairs. Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway, her dark curls pulled back in a ponytail, her science textbook clutched to her chest. Mom, she said hesitantly, is everything okay? I heard you talking. I crossed the room and pulled her into a hug. Everything's fine, sweetheart. Actually, how about we take a break from homework? Let's go get ice cream. Her face lit up. Really? Can we go to that place with the sprinkle station? Absolutely. And while we're there, we can talk about your marine biology dreams. I want to hear everything. As we drove to the ice cream parlor, I glanced at Emma in the rearview mirror, watching her face light up as she talked about coral reefs and ocean conservation. Barbara was wrong about so many things, but especially this. Emma wasn't just my daughter, she was my miracle. And no one, not even her grandmother, would steal her future. My phone buzzed with a text from Barbara. Don't tell Mark. It would just upset him unnecessarily. This is for the best. I smiled, thinking of the trust fund paperwork Diana was preparing. Barbara had no idea what was coming. Sometimes the best revenge isn't loud or dramatic. It's letting people reveal their true colors while you quietly build something better. The ice cream parlor was quiet for a Tuesday afternoon. As Emma created her masterpiece at the sprinkle station, I made a few more calls. By the time Mark got home, everything would be in motion. Barbara thought she was protecting her real family's future. She was about to learn what protecting family really meant. Mark arrived home that evening to find Emma and me in the living room, surrounded by photo albums and trust fund documents. His smile faltered as he took in the scene. "What's going on?" he asked, setting down his briefcase. "Why are there legal papers on the coffee table?" "Daddy?" Emma ran to hug him, then returned to her spot on the floor, flipping through photos of her adoption day. I could see Barbara and many of them standing at the edges, her smile never quite reaching her eyes. "Your mother called today," I said calmly. "She had some interesting news about Emma's college fund." Mark loosened his tie, sinking into his armchair. "What about it?" "It's gone. All $48,000. Your mother transferred it to James's trust fund because, in her words, Emma isn't her real grandchild." The color drained from Mark's face. "She what?" I handed him my phone, playing the recorded conversation. Barbara's voice filled the room, each cruel word about Emma cutting through the air. Emma pretended to focus on her photos, but I saw her shoulders tense. "Emma, sweetheart," I said softly, "why don't you go up and finish your science project? Dad and I need to talk." Once Emma was upstairs, Mark exploded. "She can't do this. That money was for Emma's education. How dare she?" He stopped, running his hands through his hair. "I'll call her right now." "Already taken care of," I said, passing him Diana's preliminary paperwork. "I've spoken with our lawyer. We can fight this, Mark, but I need to know you're with me. Really with me." "Of course I am. Emma is my daughter." "And your mother's actions?" He slumped in his chair. I knew she was excited about James, but this is unforgettable. She's always made little comments about adoption, but I never thought she'd go this far. My phone buzzed with another text from Barbara. "Mark's home now. Remember, this is a family matter. No need for lawyers." "She doesn't want you to know," I said, showing him the message. "She thinks she can manipulate the situation like she always does." Mark's jaw tightened. "Not this time." "What do you need me to do?" I pulled out another set of papers. "First, I'm transferring money from my parents' trust fund into a new account for Emma. One that's legally protected and completely separate from your family. Second, we're going to let your mother think she's won, for now." "What do you mean?" "Tomorrow is her weekly dinner with her church friends. The same friends she's been bragging to about her new grandson Bob dismissing Emma. I think it's time they learn what kind of Christian woman she really is." Mark's eyes widened. "You're going to expose her." "No," I smiled. "She's going to expose herself." Just then my phone rang. It was Sarah, James's mother. "Sophia?" I just found out what Barbara did. I had no idea she took Emma's college fund. We never asked for that money. James has his own savings from my parents." "I believe you," I said, putting the phone on speaker. "But the money's already in James's account." "We're transferring it back," Sarah said firmly. "All of it. I'm so sorry. I knew Barbara was weird about Emma being adopted, but this is horrible. Tom is furious. He's on the phone with the bank right now." I caught Mark's eye. His brother and sister-in-law's support was unexpected but welcome. "Thank you, Sarah," I said. "But keep the money for now. Trust me." After hanging up, I explained my plan to Mark. His mother had spent years building an image of the perfect grandmother, the pillar of her community. But her mask was about to slip. "Are you sure about this?" Mark asked. "Remember last Christmas," I said, "when she gave James a savings bond but told Emma she was teaching her the value of earning things herself? Or Emma's last birthday, when she said adopted children shouldn't expect the same gifts as natural grandchildren?" Mark nodded slowly. "She's been showing us who she is all along. We just didn't want to see it." "Well, now everyone's going to see it." Later that night, after checking on Emma, who was indeed finishing her science project, I sent Barbara a message. "You're right. Blood is thicker than water. Family comes first. Looking forward to seeing you at church tomorrow." Her reply was immediate. "I knew you'd understand, dear. You're learning." I smiled, thinking of Diana's paperwork, Sarah's phone call, and tomorrow's church gathering. Barbara thought she was teaching me about family. Instead, she was about to learn that real family, the kind that matters, has nothing to do with blood and everything to do with love. As I got ready for bed, I heard Emma's voice from her room. She was video chatting with her best friend, and Mom says I can definitely still be a marine biologist. We're going to visit the aquarium this weekend to talk to real scientists. Her excitement, her dreams, her future, these were what mattered. Barbara's betrayal had shown her true colors, but it had also given us the chance to build something stronger. Tomorrow would be interesting indeed. Sunday morning arrived bright and clear. I dressed Emma in her prettiest church dress, the one Barbara had criticized as too expensive for everyday children. Mark adjusted his tie, a determined look in his eyes. Barbara was already holding court when we arrived at church, surrounded by her usual circle of admirers. She was showing off photos of James, cooing about her perfect biological grandson. "Oh, Sophia, Mark," she called, her smile faltering slightly when she saw Emma. "I didn't expect you today." "Wouldn't miss it," I said sweetly. "Emma, why don't you show Great Aunt Martha your science project photos?" Emma pulled out her phone, brightening as she shared pictures of her award-winning project on ocean conservation. Martha's eyes widened. "My goodness, what a brilliant girl. And you want to be a marine biologist? Barbara, you must be so proud of your granddaughter." Barbara's smile tightened. "Well, she's not really." "Not really sure where she gets her brains from," Mark interrupted. "Must be from her amazing mom." I noticed Sarah and Tom entering the church, baby James in their arms, right on schedule. "Barbara," Sarah called out, her voice carrying across the church lobby, "we need to discuss the money you took from Emma's college fund." The chattering crowd fell silent. Barbara's face reddened. "Sarah, dear, this isn't the place. You stole from a child," Sarah continued, bouncing James. "Our son doesn't need stolen money. We're here to return it." Barbara's friends turned to stare at her. "Stolen money?" Martha asked. "Barbara, what is she talking about?" "It's a family misunderstanding," Barbara stammered. "I simply redistributed some funds to benefit my real grandchild." "Real grandchild?" Tom's voice boomed. "Are you saying my niece isn't real?" The church lobby had become very quiet. Even the pastor had stopped to listen. "I just meet." Barbara tried again. "You meant that my daughter," I said clearly, "whom you've claimed to love for 8 years, doesn't deserve an education because she's adopted?" "That's not. I was thinking of James's future." "James has a future," Sarah said firmly. "One that doesn't need to be built on stealing from his cousin. We're returning every penny." Barbara looked around desperately, finding only shocked and disappointed faces. Her carefully cultivated image was crumbling. "Perhaps," the pastor said quietly, "we should discuss this in my office. Barbara, your recent behavior seems at odds with our church's teachings about family and love." "I don't need a lecture," Barbara snapped. "Everything I did was for my actual grandchild." Her words echoed in the shocked silence. Several people gasped. Emma, who had been quiet throughout, stepped forward. "It's okay, Grandma," she said softly. "Mom already showed me my new college fund. It's bigger than the one you took. And Mom says real family isn't about blood, it's about love." I placed my hands on Emma's shoulders, feeling them shake slightly but seeing the strength in her stance. "Emma's right," I said, "which is why I wanted to make an announcement." I pulled out an envelope. "We're establishing a scholarship fund at the church. The Emma Mitchell Education Fund, for adopted children who dream of college. We're starting it with $100,000 from my parents' trust fund." Barbara's jaw dropped. "Trust fund? What trust fund?" "The one you never knew about," I smiled. "Sometimes family secrets work both ways." The pastor beamed. "What a wonderful initiative. Barbara, perhaps you'd like to be the first to contribute. Show your support for all children." Barbara looked around the lobby, seeing her social standing evaporate. Years of carefully crafted appearances undone by her own actions. I need to leave," she muttered, gathering her things. "Before you go," Mark said, speaking up, "we've made some changes to our will. Emma's future is secure, and more importantly, she'll be surrounded by people who love her unconditionally. People who understand that family isn't about DNA, it's about choice." As Barbara hurried out, her church friends turned away, Martha's disapproving sniff echoing in the lobby. Later that afternoon, as Emma played with James in our backyard, Sarah approached me. "You know," she said, watching the children, "James is lucky to have Emma as his cousin. Blood doesn't matter, love does." I nodded, watching my daughter show her baby cousin a butterfly that had landed on a flower. Barbara thought she was punishing us. But she just showed us who our real family is. The scholarship fund announcement made the local paper. Barbara's social circle shrank considerably. But more importantly, Emma blossomed, surrounded by people who truly loved her. A week later, we received a letter from Barbara's church. They'd removed her from the social committee and charitable boards. Her carefully built kingdom had crumbled, not through our revenge, but through her own actions. Emma's new college fund grew steadily. Sarah and Tom became regular visitors, determined to ensure their son grew up knowing love matters more than biology. As for Barbara, she'd learned the hard way that sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the family you're born into. And Emma, she's still planning to be a marine biologist, knowing her future is secure, not despite being adopted, but because she has a family who truly loves her. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living well and showing others what real family means. You've never had kids. You don't belong here. My son mocked as she kicked me out of her baby shower. Little did she know, I was carrying the child she'd been trying to adopt. I stood in the elegant hallway of Amanda's house, my hand instinctively moving to my stomach as I watched my sister-in-law slam the door in my face. The carefully wrapped gift I'd brought tumbled from my other hand, its pink ribbon unraveling across the polished hardwood floor. My name is Olivia, and at 32, I never imagined I'd be thrown out of a baby shower while carrying my own child. But here I was fighting back tears as I heard the party resume behind the closed door. Amanda's voice carrying through as she made some joke about people who don't understand real motherhood. The irony was almost too much to bear. Just 3 months ago, Amanda and my brother James had been devastated when their latest adoption application was rejected. They'd been trying to adopt for years, each attempt ending in heartbreak. Amanda had become increasingly bitter, especially toward women who could have children naturally. I hadn't planned to attend the shower. It was for one of Amanda's friends who was expecting twins. But James had begged me to come, saying Amanda was having a hard time and needed family support. "Please live," he'd said over the phone. "She's really struggling with Sarah's pregnancy. Having you there might help." I should have known better. The morning had started pleasantly enough. I'd arrived early to help set up, ignoring the mild morning sickness that had become my constant companion. Amanda had barely acknowledged me, but I was used to that. I kept myself busy arranging flowers and setting out plates, carefully avoiding the champagne being poured. Everything changed when Sarah, the guest of honor, asked me if I had any children. "Not yet," I'd replied with a small smile, carefully choosing my words. I wasn't ready to share my news, especially not here. At just 11 weeks along, I was still keeping the pregnancy private. Amanda had overheard. "Olivia doesn't have kids," she announced loudly, her voice sharp. "She's too focused on her career to understand the joys of motherhood." Unlike some of us who would give anything to have a baby, the room had gone quiet. I felt the familiar twist of guilt, the same one I'd been battling since discovering my pregnancy. How could I tell my sister-in-law, who desperately wanted a child, that I was expecting? Especially since, actually, Sarah had said, trying to break the tension, "I think any woman who wants to be a mother has that maternal instinct. You don't have to have given birth to." "Don't," Amanda cut her off. "Don't talk about things you don't understand. Some of us have been trying for years, going through every possible procedure, filling out endless adoption paperwork, while others," she glared at me, "others just get to waltz through life without understanding real sacrifice." That's when I felt it, the now familiar wave of nausea. I rushed to the bathroom, barely making it in time. Through the door, I heard Amanda's running commentary about people who can't handle even being around children. When I emerged, pale but composed, Amanda was waiting. "I think you should leave," she said, her voice cold. "This is a celebration of motherhood, and you clearly don't belong here. You've never had kids, never will, and honestly, it's probably for the best. Some people just aren't meant to be mothers." Now, standing in the hallway, I pulled out my phone with trembling hands. There was a text from James. "I heard what happened. I'm so sorry. Are you okay?" I started to type a response, then stopped. How could I tell my brother that his wife had just thrown out the woman carrying the child they'd been hoping to adopt? The baby growing inside me was the one they'd been waiting for, a private adoption I had been helping arrange through my work as a social worker. I'd been waiting for the right moment to tell them, wanting to be absolutely certain everything was in order first. The door opened suddenly and Sarah slipped out, her face concerned. "Olivia, I'm so sorry." Amanda was completely out of line. "Are you all right?" I managed a weak smile. "I'm fine. Really? I should go." "You don't have to," she started, then her eyes widened as she noticed my hand still resting on my stomach. Being pregnant herself, she recognized the unconscious gesture. "Oh," she said softly. "Oh my goodness." I shook my head slightly, silently pleading for her understanding. She nodded, squeezing my arm gently. "Don't worry," she whispered. "Your secret's safe with me." "But Olivia," she glanced back at the closed door. "They're going to find out eventually." "I know," I replied, gathering my fallen gift. "But not today. Today's about you and your babies. Congratulations, Sarah." As I walked to my car, I could still hear the party continuing inside. Amanda's laugh rang out, harsh and brittle. If only she knew that the baby she'd been dreaming of, the one she had been trying to adopt for months, was growing right under her nose. But as I stood there in the warm spring sunshine, one thought kept circling through my mind. How was I going to tell them now? The next 2 weeks were a blur of dodged calls and careful avoidance. James tried reaching out several times, but I kept our conversations brief and professional, focusing only on the adoption case they thought I was helping with. Each time he brought up the baby shower incident, I changed the subject. "Amanda feels terrible," he said during one call. Though we both knew that wasn't true. "She's just been emotional since the last adoption fell through." I sat in my office at the social services department, staring at the ultrasound photo hidden in my desk drawer. "James, we both know that's not true, but I don't want to discuss it." "Liv, please. You're my sister. I hate this tension between you and Amanda." I quickly closed the drawer as my colleague Sophia walked in, carrying more files. At 13 weeks pregnant, I had finally told my supervisor and close coworkers, but we were keeping it quiet, especially since I was handling my brother's adoption case. Technically, I shouldn't have been assigned to it at all. But our small office was understaffed, and I had been helping them navigate the process for months. "I have to go," I told James. "I have a meeting." After hanging up, I turned to Sophia. "Any news about the Mason case?" She nodded, her expression concerned. "The birth mother's having second thoughts. She's considering keeping the baby." My heart sank. This was exactly what I'd been worried about. The young woman whose baby I was carrying had initially been matched with James and Amanda, but she had backed out at the last minute. That's when I discovered I was pregnant, and everything became complicated. "What do we do?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "We have to tell them," Sophia replied gently. "They need to know their adoption match has fallen through, again." I nodded, feeling the weight of multiple secrets pressing down on me. "I'll tell them. They should hear it from me." That evening, I drove to James and Amanda's house, my heart pounding. I had barely stepped out of my car when Amanda opened the front door, her face tight with forced politeness. "Oh, it's you," she said flatly. "James didn't mention you were coming. I need to talk to both of you. It's about the adoption." Her expression changed instantly, hope lighting up her features. "Did you find us another match? Is there a baby?" Guilt twisted in my stomach, or maybe that was just morning sickness. "Let's talk inside." James was in the living room, surrounded by half-assembled baby furniture. The sight made my heart ache. They had been so sure about this adoption. They had already started preparing the nursery. "Olivia has news about the adoption," Amanda announced, practically bouncing with excitement. I took a deep breath. "You should sit down." They did, hands clasped together, and I saw the moment they registered my expression. James's face fell, while Amanda's hardened into something defensive. "The Mason case," I started carefully. "The birth mother has decided to keep her baby. I'm so sorry." The silence that followed was deafening. "No," Amanda whispered. "No, you promised this one was certain. You said everything was arranged." "Amanda," James said softly, trying to calm her. "Don't," she snapped, jumping to her feet. "This is her fault. She's sabotaging us because she's jealous, because she can't have children of her own. She doesn't want anyone else to be happy either." The irony of her words hit me like a physical blow. I pressed a hand to my stomach, fighting another wave of nausea. "That's not true," I managed. "These things happen in adoptions. Birth mothers have the right to change their minds." "Get out," Amanda hissed. "Get out of my house. I never want to see you again. Find someone else to handle our case." "Amanda, please," James started, but she cut him off. "Choose James, right now, your barren sister or your wife, who actually wants a family." I saw the conflict on my brother's face, the pain in his eyes as he looked between us, but I knew what he would choose, what he always chose. "I'll show myself out," I said quietly, turning toward the door. Liv, wait, James called after me. But I was already gone, hurrying to my car as the tears finally started to fall. As I drove home, one hand resting protectively on my small bump, I realized I couldn't keep this secret much longer. At 14 weeks, I would start showing soon. And with the Mason adoption falling through, James and Amanda would be devastated, desperate for any hope of having a child. My phone buzzed with a text from Sophia. Did you tell them about the Mason case? Yes, I replied when I got home. But not about the other thing. Olivia, you need to tell them. The longer you wait, the harder it will be. She was right, of course. But how could I tell them now? How could I explain that when their adoption match fell through, I had approached the birth mother privately? That when she told me she trusted me, knew me from our counseling sessions, and would feel better about the adoption if I carried the baby, I had agreed. I hadn't planned it this way. I had only meant to help, to give my brother and sister-in-law the baby they desperately wanted. The artificial insemination had worked on the first try, and everything had been proceeding perfectly until Amanda threw me out of that baby shower. Now, sitting alone in my apartment, I pulled out the ultrasound photo again. The baby, their baby, my baby, our complicated little miracle, was healthy and growing right on schedule. But with every passing day, the truth became harder to tell. My phone buzzed again. James. I'm sorry about Amanda. Please don't give up on us. I stared at his message, tears blurring my vision. How could I tell them now that their dream of having a baby was growing inside the sister they had just rejected? How could any of us move forward from here? The baby kicked, a tiny flutter that only I could feel, as if reminding me that time was running out. One way or another, the truth would come out, and when it did, nothing would ever be the same. The truth came out sooner than I'd planned, and in the worst possible way. At 16 weeks pregnant, I couldn't hide it anymore. My small bump was becoming noticeable, and office whispers had started reaching beyond our department. I knew it was only a matter of time before word got back to James and Amanda. I was preparing to tell them when fate intervened. At a routine doctor's appointment, I ran into Sarah, the same Sarah from the baby shower. She was there for her twins' checkup, and her face lit up when she saw my obvious pregnancy. Olivia, I'm so happy for you, she exclaimed before lowering her voice. Have you told them yet? Before I could respond, I heard a sharp intake of breath behind me. There stood Amanda, clutching a stack of fertility clinic paperwork, her face draining of color as she took in my pregnant form. You? She whispered, her voice trembling with rage. All this time, while we've been struggling, waiting for our adoption match, you've been pregnant. Amanda, please let me explain. Explain what? How you hid this from us? How you sat in our house 2 weeks ago, telling us our adoption had fallen through while you were carrying your own child. It's not what you think. But she was already pulling out her phone, dialing James. You need to come to the women's clinic. Now, your sister has been lying to us. Everything unraveled quickly after that. James arrived within minutes, his face a mask of confusion that turned to shock when he saw me. We ended up in an empty consultation room, the weight of secrets finally too heavy to bear. The baby, I said quietly, my hand resting on my bump. It's yours. The silence that followed was deafening. What are you talking about? Amanda demanded. So I told him everything. About the birth mother who'd backed out, but who trusted me. About the agreement we'd made, the artificial insemination, the careful legal arrangements. How I planned to tell them after the first trimester. But then the baby shower happened. You're carrying our baby? James asked, his voice cracking. Amanda sat heavily in a chair, her face unreadable. The adoption didn't fall through at all, did it? You're the birth mother. Technically, yes, but this baby was always meant for you. Everything is legally arranged. I'm just helping. Amanda laughed bitterly. You're carrying my baby and you didn't tell me? You let me throw you out of a baby shower, call you barren, while all this time. I wanted to tell you, I whispered. But how could I? After everything you said, after how you treated me. James moved closer, his eyes fixed on my bump. Can I? I nodded, tears falling as he placed his hand gently on my stomach. As if on cue, the baby kicked. Amanda made a small broken sound. That's our baby. Yes, I said softly. Your baby. I'm just helping them grow until they're ready to be with their real parents. Something shifted in Amanda's expression. She stood slowly, moving closer. All this time you've been protecting our child. Taking vitamins, dealing with morning sickness, going to appointments. For us." I nodded, unable to speak through my tears. "Oh God," she whispered, "the baby shower. The things I said to you." "It's okay. It's not okay," she cut me off. "I was horrible to you, and you were giving us the most precious gift anyone could give." The next few minutes were a blur of tears, apologies, and tentative touches to my growing bump. As the initial shock wore off, questions started pouring out. How was I feeling? Had I been eating properly? Did I need anything? "I have all the ultrasound photos," I told them, "and videos of the heartbeat. Would you like to see?" Amanda grabbed my hand, squeezing it tight. "We want to see everything. And from now on, if you'll let us, we want to be part of everything." "You already are," I said, placing her hand where the baby was kicking. "This little one has always been yours. I'm just the aunt who was helping them get here safely." As we left the clinic that day, arrangements already being made for future appointments and birthing plans, I felt lighter than I had in months. The secret was out, and though things weren't perfect, we still had a lot to work through. We were finally moving forward together. 6 months later, as I watched Amanda hold her newborn daughter for the first time, tears streaming down her face, I knew every complicated moment had been worth it. James hugged me tight, whispering thank you over and over, while their daughter, my niece, yawned and stretched in her mother's arms. Family isn't always simple. Sometimes it's messy and complicated, full of misunderstandings and hurt feelings. But sometimes, if we're brave enough to face the truth and kind enough to forgive, it can be more beautiful than we ever imagined. Amanda named her daughter Hope because she said that's what I'd given them when they needed it most. And every time I see them together, I know I made the right choice. Some gifts are worth all the complications in the world. The sound of the slap echoed through the crowded mall, followed by my 7-year-old daughter Emma's heartbreaking cry. I stood frozen, watching my child clutch her reddened cheek while my sister-in-law, Victoria, towered over her, a designer bag clutched protectively to her chest. "How dare you touch my Gucci with your filthy hands?" Victoria snarled, her perfectly manicured fingers still raised. Poor kids shouldn't touch expensive things. My name is Diana, and I never thought I'd witness my sister-in-law assault my child in broad daylight. But there we were, standing in the middle of Maxwell Mall's luxury wing, with shocked shoppers gathering around us. Emma ran to me, burying her tear-stained face against my legs. "Mommy, I just wanted to look at the butterflies," she whimpered, referring to the delicate embroidery on Victoria's bag. My heart shattered as I held her close, feeling her small body shake with sobs. Victoria adjusted her silk blouse, looking down at us with the same contempt she'd shown since I married her brother James 5 years ago. Well, now she's learned her lesson of touching things that don't belong to her class. The way she said class made my blood boil. Ever since James's accident last year left me a widow raising Emma alone, Victoria had made it her mission to remind us that we no longer belonged in their wealthy social circle. But this hitting my child was beyond anything I could have imagined. "She's 7 years old, Victoria," I said, my voice trembling with rage. "She's your niece." Victoria rolled her eyes, checking her reflection in a store window. "Step-niece," she corrected, "and clearly one who needs to learn some manners." "Really, Diana, this is what happens when children aren't raised properly." A small crowd had gathered, some people filming with their phones. Victoria seemed to notice them for the first time, her expression shifting from disdain to concern. "Oh, don't make a scene," she hissed. "This is exactly why I told James you weren't right for this family. No class, no breeding." I felt Emma flinch at her words, and something inside me snapped. Looking around, I spotted the security cameras mounted in the corners of the luxury wing. I had worked at this mall during college. I knew their surveillance system was top-notch. "You're right, Victoria," I said calmly, surprising both her and myself. "Let's not make a scene. But you should know those security cameras caught everything, and I will be requesting the footage." The color drained from her face. "You wouldn't dare. Do you know who I am in this community? Who my husband is?" I stroked Emma's hair, feeling her trembling subside slightly. "Yes, I know exactly who you are. You're someone who just assaulted a child on camera because she admired your handbag." Victoria's perfectly lined lips twisted into a snarl. "You ungrateful little. After everything our family has done for you. Living in that house my brother left you, surviving off his insurance money." "My house," I corrected her. "My husband's insurance. which he paid for to protect us. And now I'm going to protect our daughter from you. Our daughter. Victoria laughed, but I could see fear creeping into her eyes. She's nothing but a gold digger's spawn. When I'm done, you'll both be out on the street where you belong. She turned on her designer heels and stormed off, leaving a wake of whispers and foam cameras in her path. I knelt down to Emma's level, gently touching her reddened cheek. I'm sorry, baby, I whispered, fighting back tears. I'm so sorry she hurt you. Emma looked up at me with those eyes so much like her father's. It's okay, Mommy. I shouldn't have touched her bag. No, sweetheart, she was wrong, not you, and I promise she'll never hurt you again. As I held my daughter, a mall security officer approached us. Ma'am, we saw what happened on our monitors. Would you like to file a report? I straightened up, keeping Emma's hand firmly in mine. Yes, I replied. And I'd like a copy of the security footage, please. Victoria had no idea what she just started. She thought she could bully us because we weren't as wealthy as her family. She thought money and social status gave her the right to hurt my child. But she was about to learn that a mother's love was more powerful than any designer handbag or social connection. As we followed the security officer to their office, I received a text from Victoria. Back off, or you'll regret it. Remember who holds the power in this family. I smiled, thinking of the security cameras that had captured everything. We'll see about that, I whispered to myself, holding Emma closer. The real power wasn't in Victoria's threats or her husband's influence. It was in the truth, and soon everyone would see it. The security footage was worse than I remembered. Watching in the mall security office, I felt sick as Victoria's hand connected with Emma's face in crystal clear detail. The audio picked up every cruel word, every hateful statement about our class and breeding. We can have copies ready for you within an hour, Officer Martinez said, his expression grim. Will you be pressing charges? Before I could answer, my phone exploded with messages. Victoria had been busy. My in-laws' family group chat was on fire. Diana is trying to destroy our family's reputation. She provoked Victoria by letting her unruly child misbehave. This is exactly why James should have listened to us about marrying beneath him. Then came the private message from my father-in-law. Drop this now, Diana. You don't want to make an enemy of this family. I looked at Emma, who had fallen asleep in the security officer's chair, tear tracks still visible on her cheek. I thought about all the times I'd stayed quiet for family peace. The snide comments about my background, the exclusion from family events, the constant reminders that we weren't good enough. Yes, I told Officer Martinez. I want to press charges. He nodded, typing into his computer. The footage has already been secured. It can't be deleted or altered. That's when Victoria burst into the security office, her husband Marcus in tow. He was a corporate lawyer, known for making problems disappear for wealthy clients. This is all a misunderstanding, Marcus announced smoothly. We can handle this as a family matter. Family matter? I stood up, positioning myself between them and Emma. Your wife assaulted my daughter in public. Now, Diana, Marcus used his courtroom voice, let's be reasonable. Victoria was simply disciplining an unruly child. Any judge would see that. Any judge would see a grown woman striking a 7-year-old for admiring her purse. I corrected him. And now they will. Victoria stepped forward, her voice sickly sweet. Diana, darling, think about Emma's future. Do you really want to be known as the woman who sued her own family? Who'd hire her? Who'd accept her into their schools? I felt Emma stir behind me. She'd woken up and was listening, her small hand clutching my jacket. Are you threatening my daughter's future because your wife got caught on camera assaulting her? I asked loudly, making sure Officer Martinez could hear. Marcus grabbed Victoria's arm. No one's threatening anyone. We're simply trying to resolve this privately. Name your price. My price? I pulled out my phone, showing him the messages from the family group chat. Like how you're trying to paint me as a gold digger? How you're already spreading lies about what happened. Victoria's composure cracked. You ungrateful witch. We took you in when you were nothing. James could have had someone from our circle, but he chose you, and look how you repay his memory. Mom? Emma's voice was small but clear. Is Aunt Victoria sorry for hitting me? The room fell silent. Victoria's face twisted in disgust. Sorry? You little brat, you should be sorry for touching things that aren't yours. Officer Martinez stepped forward. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to leave. Do you know who we are? Marcus demanded. One call from me to your supervisor would be recorded on our security system. Officer Martinez finished calmly, just like everything else that's happened in this room. I watched their faces as it sank in. They weren't in control anymore. Their money and connections couldn't erase what the cameras had captured. Victoria's phone chimed. She looked at it and went pale. Marcus, she whispered. It's trending. Someone in the mall had posted their video of the incident. In the 20 minutes we'd been in the security office, it had already gone viral. Comments were pouring in, most of them identifying Victoria by name. Take it down, she demanded, shoving her phone in my face. Fix this now. I can't, I replied truthfully. I didn't post it. But maybe you should have thought about cameras before assaulting a child in public. Marcus pulled out his checkbook. $10,000. Right now. This ends here. I looked at Emma, seeing James's strength in her eyes. No, I said firmly. This ends when Victoria faces consequences for once in her life. You'll regret this, Victoria spat. When I'm done, you'll be living in a cardboard box. As they stormed out, Emma tugged my sleeve. Mom, did I do something wrong? I knelt beside her. No, sweetheart. You did nothing wrong. And I promise you, no one will ever hurt you like that again. Officer Martinez cleared his throat. Ma'am, there's something else you should know. After your sister-in-law left the mall, she was recorded in the parking lot making some concerning statements, threats, specifically. We have that footage too. I nodded, feeling strangely calm. Add it to the file, please. My phone buzzed again, this time with a message from James's Aunt Catherine, who had always been kind to us. Just saw the video. That woman is no longer welcome at any family event I host. Are you and Emma okay? Do you need a lawyer? I know several who would love to handle this. Then came texts from other family members, ones who had stayed quiet during Victoria's previous bullying. The video had forced them to take sides, and her mask had finally cracked. As Officer Martinez finished processing our complaint, I received one last message from Victoria herself. Last chance. Drop this or I'll show the world what kind of woman my brother really married. I smiled, thinking of the security footage, the viral video, and the parking lot threats, all safely documented. Victoria still thought she held all the cards, still believed her money and social status would protect her. She had no idea what was coming next. Victoria's attempt to show the world what kind of woman I was backfired spectacularly. The next morning, she posted a carefully edited version of the mall incident on social media, painting herself as the victim of an ungrateful sister-in-law who let her unruly child damage expensive property. What she didn't expect was the mall's official response. Regarding the incident at Maxwell Mall on Saturday, we have released the complete security footage to the authorities. It clearly shows no damage to any property but does show an adult striking a 7-year-old child for touching a handbag. We have a zero-tolerance policy for violence against children. The full footage went public that afternoon. Every angle, every cruel word, even Victoria's threats in the parking lot afterward. Her social circle imploded. The charity boards she sat on, the elite social clubs she belonged to, suddenly, everyone had seen her true colors. I'm resigning from the Children's Hospital Foundation board. My father-in-law announced at the emergency family meeting he called. They made it clear I wasn't welcome after what your wife did, Marcus. Victoria sat rigid in her designer outfit, her face a mask of fury. This is all your fault, she shrieked at me. You've ruined everything. No, Victoria, Aunt Catherine cut in. You ruined everything when you hit your niece, and we let you get away with too much for too long. The family's longtime lawyer cleared his throat. There's something else. Mrs. Chen from the mall's luxury boutique called. She has footage of several incidents involving Victoria and store merchandise disappearing. She was waiting to report it, but after seeing the video, Victoria's face went white. Marcus stood up, his lawyer mask finally cracking. You told me those bags were gifts from friends. I watched their perfect world crumble, feeling no satisfaction, only relief that Emma would never be hurt by them again. Diana, my father-in-law said quietly, what do you want from us? Name it. I thought about James, about how he'd always tried to shield me from his family's cruelty, about how he'd made me promise to stay strong if anything happened to him. I want 3 things, I said firmly. First, Victoria gets help, real help for her issues. Second, she writes Emma a genuine apology. And third, I pulled out some papers. I want you all to sign this. What is it? Marcus asked suspiciously. A legally binding agreement to never contact us again unless we initiate it. Emma deserves to grow up without fear of her aunt's next outburst. Victoria lunged for the papers, but Marcus grabbed her arm. Enough, he snapped. You've done enough damage. Looking at his wife with new eyes, he picked up a pen. I'll sign. And Victoria will too, or she can find herself a new lawyer husband. One by one, they signed. Victoria's signature was last, her hand shaking with rage. You think this makes you better than me? She spat. You're still nothing but a... Choose your next words carefully, Aunt Catherine interrupted. The world has seen enough of your true nature. Later that evening, as Emma and I ate ice cream on our front porch, she asked me a question that broke my heart. Mom, are we really never going to see them again? I pulled her close. Not unless we want to, sweetheart, and that's okay. Family isn't about who you're related to. It's about who loves you and treats you with kindness. She nodded, then smiled. Like Ms. Martinez's daughter at school, she invited me to her birthday party next week. Exactly like that. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Local socialite steps down from multiple charity boards following viral assault video. Below it was a message from Marcus. The divorce papers are being filed tomorrow. I'm sorry for everything. I deleted both without responding. Victoria's world of designer bags and social status had crumbled, but ours was just beginning to bloom. Emma was healing, making real friends who liked her for who she was, not for her family name. A week later, a package arrived from Aunt Catherine. Inside was a beautiful butterfly-embroidered purse, perfectly sized for a 7-year-old girl. The note read, For Emma, because every little girl deserves to touch beautiful things. Love, your real family. Emma's face lit up as she traced the butterflies with her finger. No fear, no hesitation. Just joy. And that, in the end, was worth more than all of Victoria's designer bags combined. The sound of my children crying through their bedroom door is something I'll never forget. I stood frozen in the hallway, my hand hovering over the doorknob, still processing what my 8-year-old son, Jack, had just texted me from his iPad. Aunt Melissa locked us in. Please come home. My name is Sarah Parker, and I never thought I'd have to rush home from the pharmacy to rescue my own children from their aunt. The irony wasn't lost on me. I had only stepped out for 20 minutes to get more party supplies for the family gathering she had insisted on hosting at our house. Let us out. Emma, my 6-year-old daughter, was sobbing. We'll be good, we promise. I tried the handle, but Melissa had done more than just lock it. She'd wedged a chair under the doorknob. Through the door, I could hear the party continuing downstairs, laughter and music drifting up as if nothing was wrong. As if my sister-in-law hadn't just imprisoned my children in their own home. Mommy's here. I called through the door, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm going to get you out. Just give me a minute. I could hear them both sniffling, trying to be brave. The security camera notification had popped up on my phone just as I was checking out at the pharmacy. At first, I couldn't make sense of what I was seeing. Melissa dragging my children up the stairs, her face twisted with anger, while my husband Tom's relatives continued their conversations in the living room below, pretending not to notice. Your bratty kids ruin every party, she hissed, shoving them into their room. Always wanting attention, always making noise. Well, now you can stay here until you learn to behave. I had installed those cameras after noticing bruises on Emma's arms 3 months ago. She'd said she fell at school, but something in her voice made me suspicious. Tom had called me paranoid when I suggested his sister might have something to do with it. Melissa loves the kids, he'd insisted. She's just strict sometimes. Strict. Right. I ran to our bedroom and grabbed a spare key from my dresser drawer, my hands shaking with a mixture of fear and fury. As I worked to remove the chair and unlock the door, I could hear Melissa's voice carrying up the stairs. Oh, the kids, they're just taking a nap. You know how cranky they get at these gatherings. The door finally swung open. Jack and Emma burst out, throwing themselves into my arms, their faces streaked with tears. She said we were bad. Emma hiccuped. She said we didn't deserve to be at the party. We weren't even doing anything wrong, Jack added, his voice trembling. We were just playing with our cousins in a corner like you told us to. I held them close, breathing in their familiar scents, trying to calm my racing heart. You did nothing, Mom, I assured them. Nothing at all. Over their heads, I could see my phone continuing to record through the hallway camera. Every moment, every word captured in high definition. The sound of footsteps on the stairs made us all tense. Sarah? Melissa's voice called out, fake sweetness dripping from every syllable. When did you get back? I was just coming to check on the children. I turned to face her as she reached the top of the stairs, her perfect hostess smile faltering slightly when she saw the open door and my protective stance in front of my kids. Funny, I said, my voice ice cold. I thought they were taking a nap. She recovered quickly, smoothing her designer dress. Oh, they were so overexcited. I thought they needed some quiet time. You know how children can be at these events. Yes, I replied. I do know how children can be. I also know how security cameras work. The color drained from her face. Security cameras? I pulled out my phone, turning it so she could see the footage still playing. Her dragging my children upstairs, her cruel words, the chair against the door. I don't understand why you're making such a big deal out of this, she said, but I could hear the tremor in her voice. I was just trying to maintain order at the party. Those children of yours. Those children, I cut her off, are currently locked out of their playroom. Care to explain why? Her eyes darted to the playroom door, then back to me. I have no idea what you're talking about. But I did. The security footage had shown her sneaking boxes out of that room earlier in the day while I was setting up for the party. I had checked the cameras when Jack's text came through. The playroom door was locked, and based on the timestamps, she'd been making trips up there throughout the afternoon. Sarah, Tom's voice called from downstairs. Is everything okay up there? I looked at Melissa, whose smugness had been replaced by something close to fear. No, I called back, never taking my eyes off my sister-in-law. Everything is not okay, and I think it's time we found out exactly what Aunt Melissa's been hiding in the playroom. The party was about to take an interesting turn, and for once my sister-in-law wouldn't be controlling the narrative. As Tom's footsteps started up the stairs, I held my thumb tighter, the security footage still recording. Whatever came next, I had proof of how it started, and I had a feeling we were about to discover why Melissa had really wanted my children out of sight. Tom reached the top of the stairs, his face flushed from the party drinks. What's going on? Melissa said the kids were napping. His eyes fell on Jack and Emma, still tear-stained and clinging to my legs. Your sister locked our children in their bedroom, I said, holding up my phone. And that's not all. Show him what she did, kids. Jack, always the braver one, took his father's hand and led him to the playroom door. Aunt Melissa took our stuff, Dad. She's been sneaking in and out all day. Tom tried the handle, frowning when it wouldn't budge. Mel, what's this about? Melissa's carefully maintained composure was cracking. They have too many toys anyway, she snapped. Spoiled rotten, just like their mother. I was doing you a favor, Tom. A favor? I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Let's see exactly what kind of favor you were doing. Tom, the spare key is in your office. As Tom went to retrieve the key, I noticed Melissa typing frantically on her phone. Through the hallway camera's feed, I could see her last message. Get them out now. She knows. Who are you texting, Melissa? I asked. Just as Tom returned with the key, she jumped, nearly dropping her phone. The key turned with a click that seemed to echo through the hallway. As Tom pushed the door open, I kept my camera recording. What we saw made my blood run cold. The playroom was almost empty. The kids' expensive toys, their gaming consoles, even Emma's beloved dollhouse that my mother had given her before she passed, were all gone. But it wasn't just the missing items that made me gasp. The room had clearly been used as a staging area for an online resale operation. Shipping labels were scattered across the floor. A laptop sat open on the window seat, displaying multiple online marketplace accounts. And in a corner, a stack of receipts caught my eye. Sales records for items I recognized as belonging to my children. Oh my God, Tom breathed, picking up one of the receipts. Melissa, these are dated from months ago. How long have you been doing this? You don't understand, Melissa said, her voice rising. David lost his job. We needed the money. These kids have everything while my children make do with hand-me-downs. It's not fair. I scrolled through my phone, pulling up older security footage. There it was, Melissa sneaking in and out of the playroom over the past 3 months, always when she thought no one was watching. The bruises on Emma's arms suddenly made horrible sense. She must have caught her aunt in the act. "Emma," I said gently, "did Aunt Melissa hurt you when you saw her taking your toys?" Emma buried her face in my side, but nodded. She said if I told anyone, she'd make sure Daddy sent us away like he did with Mom's old cat. Tom's face went white. "You threatened my daughter. Your own niece." "Oh please," Melissa scoffed, but her voice was shaking. "She's exaggerating. I barely touched her. Besides, you've always said they need to learn about the real world, Tom. That they shouldn't be so materialistic." "The real world?" I cut in. "You mean the world where you steal from children and sell their belongings to cover up your husband's gambling debts?" Melissa's head snapped up. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out a folded paper from my pocket, an email I printed after discovering the first suspicious footage. David's former boss sent this to warn me. Apparently, he's been stealing from his company to cover betting losses. When they caught him, he claimed he could pay it back because his wife had a thriving online business. The sounds of the party drifted up from downstairs, creating a surreal backdrop to the scene unfolding in the playroom. Through the window, I saw a car pulling up. David's car. He must have gotten Melissa's text. "Those toys were worth thousands," I continued. "The dollhouse alone was a collector's piece." "But it wasn't just about the money, was it? You've always resented my children, always tried to make them feel less than yours." "They needed to learn their place," Melissa suddenly shouted, her calm facade completely crumbling. "Always showing off their new things, making my kids feel bad. You with your perfect job, your perfect house, taking my brother away from his real family." "Mom," Jack's voice was small but steady, "I have something to show you." He pulled up his iPad, opening his photos. There was Melissa, caught on his tablet's camera weeks ago, speaking into her phone. "Yeah, the stuff is legit. Rich brothers' kids, they get all the best things. Trust me, no one will know where it came from." Melissa lunged for the iPad, but Tom caught her arm. "Don't you dare touch him," he growled. "Don't you ever touch my children again." Heavy footsteps pounded up the stairs. David burst in, out of breath. "Mel, we need to go. Now, the buyers are asking questions about the merchandise." "The buyers?" Tom asked, his grip tightening on Melissa's arm. "You mean the people you've been selling my children's stolen belongings to?" David's face went from red to white as he took in the scene. The empty playroom, the shipping labels, his wife caught quite literally red-handed. I heard more footsteps on the stairs, party guests drawn by the commotion. Perfect timing. "I've already called the police," I said calmly, watching Melissa and David's faces drain of color. "They're very interested in this little operation you've been running, especially since some of those buyers reported receiving fake branded items." "That's fraud, isn't it?" "You wouldn't," Melissa whispered. "We're family." "Family?" I held up my phone, showing the footage of her locking my crying children in their room. "Family doesn't do this. Family doesn't steal, threaten, and abuse children. But you're right about one thing. They do have too many things. So let's see what the police have to say about where all those things went." The sound of sirens in the distance made David stumble backward. Melissa's composure finally shattered completely as she sank to the floor, mascara running down her face. Tom turned to the growing crowd of relatives in the doorway. "Party's over," he said firmly. "I think we all need to have a family meeting about what's been happening under our noses." I pulled my children close, watching as their aunt and uncle realized their perfect scheme was falling apart. The security cameras were still recording, capturing every moment of their downfall. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about bringing the truth to light. The next few weeks felt like a whirlwind. After Melissa and David's arrest at our family party, the truth came tumbling out like dominoes falling. The police investigation revealed that their scheme was larger than anyone had imagined. They hadn't just been stealing from my children, but from other families as well. "We've tracked over $50,000 in fraudulent sales," Detective Morris told me during our follow-up meeting. "Your security footage gave us the evidence we needed to uncover the whole operation." Sitting in our newly restocked playroom, I watched Emma arrange her replacement dollhouse, courtesy of the insurance claim, and thought about how different things might have been if I hadn't trusted my instincts about those cameras. Tom had been unusually quiet since that day, struggling to process the betrayal of his sister, whom he had always defended. One evening, after putting the kids to bed, he finally broke down. "I should have listened to you," he said, his voice rough with emotion. "All those times you tried to tell me something was wrong with how Melissa treated the kids. I couldn't see it." I reached for his hand. "You saw what you wanted to see. She was your sister." "Was?" he repeated bitterly. "I don't even know who she is anymore." The family had fractured along predictable lines. Some relatives, like Tom's parents, were in denial, insisting that Melissa must have had her reasons. Others, particularly those whose children had also mysteriously lost expensive toys over the past year, were furious. Jack and Emma were healing in their own ways. The therapist we started seeing helped them process their aunt's betrayal. Emma's bruises had faded, but the emotional scars would take more time. "Why did Aunt Melissa hate us so much?" Jack asked one night during dinner. "Was it because we had nice things?" "No, sweetheart," I explained carefully. "Aunt Melissa made bad choices because of her own problems. None of this was your fault." The preliminary hearing was scheduled for next month, but we had already decided that the kids wouldn't attend. They had given their statements to a child advocate, and their iPad recordings, along with my security footage, provided more than enough evidence without them needing to face Melissa again. Tom's parents tried to intervene, showing up at our house unannounced one Sunday afternoon. "You have to drop the charges," his mother pleaded. "She's getting help now. David's in rehab for his gambling. They've learned their lesson." "Like Emma learned her lesson when Melissa twisted her arm?" I asked quietly, "or like Jack learned his when she locked them in their room?" "That's different," his father blustered. "Kids need discipline." Tom, who had been silent until then, suddenly stood up. "Get out," he said, his voice shaking. "Get out of our house right now. My children were abused, their things were stolen, and you're defending the people who hurt them. We're done." I had never been prouder of him than in that moment. The insurance company helped us track down and recover some of the stolen items through the online marketplace records. Emma's original dollhouse was found in a collector's home 3 states away. The woman who had bought it was horrified to learn its history and insisted on returning it at her own expense. "Keep both," I told Emma when she couldn't decide between the old and new dollhouses. "Sometimes having more than we need isn't spoiling, it's healing." Melissa tried to contact me once before the trial through a burner phone she wasn't supposed to have while under house arrest. "Sarah, please," she begged. "You don't understand what it's like always being compared to you. The perfect mother, the perfect wife, the perfect everything. I just wanted to take something from you for once." "You didn't take from me," I replied. "You took from innocent children, your own family, and now you have to live with that." I hung up and blocked the number. The security cameras stayed up, but now they captured different moments. Jack teaching Emma how to ride her bike in the driveway, Tom organizing a proper family game night, the kids playing freely without fear of their aunt's sudden appearances. One evening, I found Jack adding password protection to his iPad. "Just in case," he said with a wisdom no 9-year-old should have to possess. "But, Mom, thanks for believing us, even before you had proof." I hugged him tight, reminded once again that our children often see and understand more than we realize. The final surprise came in an unexpected form. A letter from David's former boss. He had been following the case and wanted to set up a trust fund for Jack and Emma's education, equal to the amount his company had recovered from David's theft. "Let some good come from this," he wrote. "Your children deserve a future untainted by what happened." Tom and I decided to tell the kids about the trust fund when they're older. For now, it's enough that they're healing, playing, and learning to trust again. The security cameras still record our daily lives, but these days, they capture only joy, laughter, and the kind of chaos that comes from a happy, secure family. Melissa and David eventually took plea deals. They'll serve time, pay restitution, and most importantly, they'll never be allowed unsupervised contact with minors again. Some family members still insist we were too harsh, but looking at my children, finally free from their aunt's cruelty, I know we did the right thing. Sometimes the biggest betrayals come from those closest to us, but they also show us who we really are, and more importantly, who we choose to be. We chose to stand up for our children, to believe them, and to fight for justice. In the end, that's what family should really mean.